What's good, YouTube? Cardfight King here. AQUA Life Baby. You already know how it is. Obviously, this is not AQUA Life, but today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on my brother's Fenrir Genesis deck. Well, this is Fenrir Wiseman. Um, this deck is disgusting. I iterated that in my previous video, guys, that this deck is something I feel Bushiroad should have touched. All they need to do in this deck was ban Wiseman. They didn't need to ban Taro or Gelja or any of the Revelation cards, really. They just needed to ban Wiseman, completely take him out, because he is the card that abuses the new cards. You know, it's one of those things where you bring out new cards and and the new cards are abusable by an older card. And the fact that this thing is able to, you're able to loop, get about 6 attacks, 7 sometimes, attacks out of one column before you even drive check, is pretty ridiculous. You know, it's really ridiculous. The deck has, and it's very easy to set up the loop here. Sometimes loops should take a while to set up, but this deck can ramp your soul really fast and get your loop set up pretty quickly. With tier being able to soul charge 3 every time you check a non-trigger. It's and then obviously Wiseman's Wiseman. So but the deck is good outside of just Wiseman. The deck is still good outside of just Wiseman. It's just that this deck's focus is really more or less tutoring into Wiseman, and really the only time you're going to seriously struggle with this deck is if you have to ride Wiseman. Otherwise, there's only 4 decks that can, counter this deck as far as countering the Wiseman play in specific, and that's Kagero, Gear Chronicle. Not even Link Jokers can do it that well anymore, but like Kagero, Link Joker, Kagero, Gear Chronicle, Narukami, and Grand Blue. Narukami is the hardest because it's Thunder. You have to do the Thunder Strike thing, and then you have to use Bulwark, and they have to have 4 in the bind zone. Kagero, Gear Chronicles have Denal Griffin, Hound respectively, and Night Rose has the combo with Skeleton Cannoneer with their G Guard, pop a Skeleton Cannoneer, bring out a Ghosty. Night Rose's GB2 ability, bring back out the Skeleton Cannoneer. Skeleton Cannoneer, Counterblast 1, pop that card. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get on to the deck profile. Shouldn't be too much explaining going on. You guys should know what it is, but let's go. Alright, so we're using Lading as a starter. Now you can use Taro, the stand trigger, as a starter too. I've seen, I've watched a few Japanese games where they do that. But I personally like Lading. I'm not opposed to stand trigger, but I like Lading. Lading can because Lading helps you build up your field a little bit early. Being able to go into the soul and give you a free rear guard, to me is very good. I like that, being able to establish some early field presence early on your first stride turn. Combos pretty nicely with tier. So Lading is definitely a pretty good starter. But you can also use Taro if you want to get an early start on that engine as well. 4 heals, rabbit heals because rabbits are lucky. 4 Taro, the card that Wiseman abuses. This card is This card is like what kind of makes up the engine. So Taro is a revelation card. Revelations, when you place it on the rearguard circle, you look at the top card of your deck, and you can either put it into the soul or leave it on top of your deck. And if you do put it into the soul, you have to choose a card and rest it. But her ability is that when she's soul blasted, you put her at the bottom of your deck, and you stand and choose one of your rear guards and stand it. So Wiseman is Wiseman. You attack with Wiseman, soul blast her out. She goes to the bottom, restands Wiseman, and you keep doing that. And because she goes to the bottom, again, the more you use her, the more she stacks up, and then you'll have 4 on your deck, and then you might drive check, and it's ridiculous. But for Taro, 4 copies of the Fenrir crit, persona crit, two more crit triggers. Kurahime, she just goes into the soul, gives +3 Margot clone. She's actually not bad. She helps fill up the soul, and sometimes if you have her, you could put her in and give Wiseman just a little extra power. An extra 3K can definitely go a long way. And then 2 copies of Dreaming Dragon. My brother's talked about cutting down Kurahime or the Fenrir crit trigger to 3 or to 1 for Kurahime, and bumping up Dreaming Dragon to 3, just so you see it a little bit more consistently when you need to reset your deck. So it's something that we have to experiment and play around with. But yeah. All right, on grade 1. All right, so grade 1. 4 copies of Heal, the unflipping Perfect Guard for Genesis. Obviously, like I always say, the more counterblasts you have, the more you can do. 4 copies of the Stride Enabler, because this is the Stride deck, you need to be able to Stride. 4 copies of Gelja. Gelja is another piece to the combo. This is the card that powers up Wiseman, essentially, and powers up other units. So he does have the Revelation ability. His other ability is that it's an act ability in the soul. You put him on the bottom of your deck. You choose one of your rear guards. You stand it, and it gets 3,000 power to the turn. And if you have a Vanguard with Fenrir in its card name, you have to soul charge 2, and then choose one of your units. And it gets 3,000 until the end of the turn. So so pretty much you can give, you don't have to stand the unit to give it 3K. You could just give the unit 3K even if it's already stood. But essentially, you want to, use this when you're on a Fenrir Vanguard, and you give 6K to Wiseman. So 6K to Wiseman puts him at a 16K base from just 1, and then with his skill, Wiseman goes up to 20K. 16 and 20 doesn't matter too much on an 11K Vanguard, but you can keep doing this. The more you get into the soul, the faster you can, the more you power him up, the more you do this. And he's one of your he's definitely one of your ride targets. And then 2 copies of Witch of Orange's Valencia. Valencia is when she's soul blasted, you soul charge 2. Simple, pretty easy. She helps keep filling your soul up for Wiseman. Wiseman soul blasts her. She fills up your soul with even more cards. Again, like I said, this deck can easily ramp up the soul. This deck is very quick in soul charging. All right, on to grade 2. All right, so for grade 2, 4 copies of Witch of Grapes. She's essentially your grade 2 ride target. She does the same thing as Valencia. When you soul blast her, you soul charge 2. 4 copies of Kotonoha. Kotonoha has the Revelation ability, but her other ability is what makes her really good too, which is why I say this is another card that makes this deck good outside of Wiseman, is that when a card is put into your soul during your turn, she gets 1,000 power to the end turn, and then if a card was put into your soul through the Revelation ability, she gets an additional 1,000 power. So anytime a card is put into your soul, 1,000. If you put a card into your soul through the Revelation ability, she gets a total of 2K. And again, like I said, this deck, especially on your tier turn, when you're soul charging 3 at a time, you can easily ramp up your soul and power her up, making her an attack that your opponent generally does not want to guard. And then 3 copies of Gleipnir. Some people play that stupid 8K flying watchman guy or whatever it is. But I like Gleipnir because, again, he soul charges 3, filling up your soul, and since you generally should have soul blasted during your turn, you get to draw a card. So he gives you a card to your hand, and he also soul charges 3, helping speed up your deck and get to your Wiseman combo a lot faster. All right, on to grade 3. All right, guys. So for grade 3, 4 copies of Angelic Wiseman. His ability is simple. Vanguard or Rearguard, when it attacks, and if you have a Genesis Vanguard, you Soul Blast 3, he gets 4K into the end of the battle. So he boosts himself up to 14 again. You Soul Blast Valencia, Grapes, and Taro, the stand trigger, and you get to add cards to your soul, restand Wiseman. Gelja powers him up. The more Geljas in your soul, the better. Pump him up 6, 12, 18, 24, power him up by 24k, make him a 34k card by the time that if you use 4 Gelges. I know there's a way to get him at a higher power, because you can also use Fenrir's the Stride Fenrir's ability to give him 3k. You can use Kurihime to give 3. Literally the whole combo is getting this man onto the board, pumping him up, and making sure you have enough stand triggers in the soul to get multiple attacks off, with him before even drive checking. And if you want to drive check, and you can also do the other thing where you can drive check, and if you put like a crit trigger on him or something like that, then that causes the problem for your opponent, because now that you added a trigger ability to him, he's attacking at a little bit more power, plus should have the ability to restand with multiple stand triggers in the soul. So you always want to be aware of where your opponent's stand triggers are. You want to definitely check their damage and their heals, and their drop zone, as well as what they drive check as well. Make sure you know where those stand triggers are at all time. And then 4 copies of Fenrir. Fenrir is the boss of the deck. Obviously, this is the card you want to ride. You don't want to ride, if you ride Wiseman, this deck just gets really faulty and just, kind of breaks down a little bit. Wiseman does not help you at all with the Vanguard circle. But Fenrir is really good. When you stride on top of him, you soul charge 3, and you get the ability to call a card out when you soul blast for a counter blast 1. And his GB2 is you soul blast 3, and he gets +1. Your opponent cannot call grade 1 or greater. So +1 crit. So very good card. All right, and on to strides. All right, guys. So the strides are a little bit more unorthodox than originally had thought it would be, but get some of the meaningless ones out of the way. 1 Sea Breeze, because it's a stride deck. 2 copies of Doom Brace. Doom Brace is you act ability, you soul blast 3, you choose up to 2 of your rear guards, and they get 5,000 power until the end. Choose up to 3 of your cards, or 2 of your rear guards, and they get 5,000 power to the end of turn. And the number of cards in your soul is 2 or less, you soul charge 3. So he kind of pays for himself in a way, and then get your stuff back. But Angelic Wiseman used to be the go-to stride in the deck, but he's not really that. He's more there for, I guess, backup push plays. The card that you want to ride, or the card that you're always going to go into, is Tyr. He's the Fires Collection Beast Slayer. He's from the Fires Collection. So what he does is you soul blast 3. Look at the top card of your deck, and you choose to put keep it on the top and put it at the bottom of your deck. So he lets you pretty much just look at what card what do you want to do with the top card of your deck. Do you want to keep it on top and drive check it, or soul charge, depending on what you're using? Or do you want to put it at the bottom of your deck and hope the next card is something that you can use? His other ability is what makes him better, though. That when you drive check a grade 1 or greater card, you can soul charge 3. And you can do this 3 times. So if you drive check a 1, then you soul charge 3. Drive check a 2, soul charge 3. Drive check another 1, soul charge 3. You soul charge 9 cards in total from his attack, and if you're stridden on top of Fenrir, 12. So if you're stridden on top of Fenrir, you could potentially soul charge a total of 12 cards, and that makes Kotonoha a lot bigger. That makes her just hit astronomical numbers that your opponents don't want you to see. And again, like I said, he is the reason why he is the ramp card for this engine, for this loop. This is one of the problematic cards for it. But again, you hit Wiseman and, no more loop. Let's clear those off. Next cards are, let me just get some of these, if I can pull it, damn. Alright, 4 copies of Vanguard. That card, he used to be the old finisher. He's still a really nice card. Again, gives you an alternative way to play the deck, an alternative stride if your loop really just isn't there. To me, he's one of those cards that when you need a heal trigger or something, he helps you fish for that. So when he attacks, you soul blast 6, and your opponent has to drop their guard first, and then right before your drive step, after your opponent guards, you check the top 4 cards of your deck, and you can stack them at the top or bottom in however or whatever order you like. So he lets you move 4 cards from the top of your deck to the bottom, or keep them at top, however you want to do it. So it's a really good skill when you're fishing for triggers, when you're fishing for certain things, and you can plan your turn around this card. Still a very good card. Let me just do these G Guardians before I get to Fenrir. G Guardians, 3 of the Iris. You put 3 cards from your drop zone into your soul, and she gains 5k shield. This card is really disgusting, and again, one of those unfair cards to me sometimes. You guard with the stand trigger, you guard with Gelja, you guard with grapes, or you intercept with grapes, and then this card lets you put them from your drop zone into your soul. So she's another card that really helps you set up your soul. If you can't soul charge what you need. Screw, because Screw just helps with guarding, 36 shield. It's not bad. And then Dismal, when you want to protect your Wiseman if for some reason you didn't kill them on the turn before. And then last but not least, 2 copies of Fenrir, Hellsky Beast Fenrir. So his ability is, his GB2 ability is that your rear guards that have the Revelation ability get an ability change. Their ability change is that when you use Revelation, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and you can soul charge 1 and keep 1 on top of, and then put the other one on top of your deck. So rather good. Yeah, search up the 1 card, put it into your soul, and put the rest on top of your deck in any order. So you pretty much get to look at 2 cards and choose what to do with, one of those 2 cards. So he helps you, send things into your soul, helps fill your soul up with, the stand trigger, whatever, if it's at the top of your deck, and so allows you to do a lot of different things. His other ability is you counterblast 1, you activate, you counterblast 1, soul blast 3, and you can do this however often you want. You counterblast 1, soul blast 3, and you can draw a card, and if you don't choose not to draw a card, then you can soul charge the top card of your deck, and choose a unit on your board, and they get 3k. Ooh, excuse me, I'm yawning. Choose a unit on your board, and they get 3k. Now, you can't look at the card. Don't be one of those people that looks at the card and wants to decide whether to draw it or to soul charge it. I mean, that would make this card pretty unfair. But it is a nice card. Sometimes you just want to soul charge that card, give Wiseman an extra 3k, or if you're going to go for, a backup play, add some defense to your hand, maybe try and get another rear guard you can call out to help pressure your opponent during your Wiseman turn. You might want to draw that card. So it really is dependent on how you manage the situation that you're currently in with this card. But obviously his ability is not limited to once per turn, so you can do it however often you're able to. But yeah, that's the deck profile, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's really a simple deck, guys. It's not exactly super hard to play. Obviously, there is a learning curve with the deck, but it's not a completely difficult deck to learn how to play. It just really tests, your ability to set up the loop and manage your resources, pretty much. All right, well, that's the Cardfight King. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all later. AQUA Life Baby, you already know.